What is up, you guys? I wanted to make a video about my new 6-star Maestro that I had obtained from completing Necropolis. So, I haven't leveled him up yet or anything. I did put my generic Awakening gem onto him, but I haven't done anything else with them. I wanted to make this video kind of just talking about him and how you can more easily counter him when he's on defense. His immunities are pretty insane. He's got an immunity to poison, shock, and incinerate, which are pretty huge because lots of mystics use those, especially Doom. So Doom is gonna have a harder time fighting this guy. He gains some extra attack rating against tech champions, which, I mean, he's cosmic, so I would hope so. So his Neutronium, he gains these charges 25% slower against Mystic champions. So while Doom isn't going to be so amazing against him, he can definitely still work. So these are his ISO 8 buffs. This is where those Neutronium charges come in. So at 10 Neutronium, he gains that glancing buff, which causes attacks to have a 100% chance to glance, which is just ridiculous, dude. You guys don't like fighting Ant-Man? Yeah, this guy's going to be even worse. At 20, he gains a Pierce. At 30, he gains this radiation buff, which, if you're standing close to him, you take damage, which is honestly kind of annoying. It's like Omega Red and his death field, I guess. I don't know the exact name for it. I don't remember. So, like, if he had the glance buff and then he reached 20 Neutronium for the Pierce, that glance buff would re-trigger. And then at 30 and he gains that radiation buff, the glance and the pierce buffs will re-trigger again. So basically just refreshing. That's what this last little point means. When Maestro would gain an ISO 8 buff, re-trigger all other ISO 8 buffs from previous thresholds. And then he has this superior rage mode. At 40 Neutronium, he will enter the rage mode and he will gain some attack rating. During this mode, 1 Neutronium expires every second. When he enters this mode, he will also remove his current buffs, and he will turn them into passives, so then they can't be nullified. When he is knocked down during this mode, he will lose 5 Neutronium. He can't gain any more Neutronium for 6 seconds after this mode ends. And when this mode ends, he will remove all buffs and passives. So, when he is in this mode, what you want to do is you want to knock him down. Like, just... I think you can just parry heavy him, or just chain special attacks if you can, throw in a striker, and then heavy him that way, or special, whatever. Because if you knock him down, it'll remove his Neutronium charges faster, therefore getting him out of the rage mode quicker. Each special attack will give him 2 Neutronium. When he is in his rage mode, the special attacks will activate a root passive. So when he's in his rage mode, you want to be sure to, or you just want to try and not let him throw a special, because then you're just going to get rooted. And then you're just going to take a lot of damage to the block because he has the Pierce active. So you got to get him out of that rage mode as quick as you can. Special 1, each hit deals a burst of 261 energy damage. Deal an additional burst of energy damage for each active personal Fury effect. As a defender, this damage scales with base attack only. In his rage mode, these effects can trigger through block, so even if you block the attack, this will still deal extra burst damage through you. through your block. On activation, for each active ISO 8 buff or passive, gain a Fury buff, increasing attack rating by 157 for 36 seconds, with a max stack of 3. When he's in his rage mode, you will gain Fury passives instead of buffs, so they can't be nullified. And you will gain an energy penetration passive, causing all attacks to ignore 50% of the opponent's current energy resistance for 36 seconds. That's pretty huge, because even though he's geared to be a really good defender, he can almost bypass like an energy resistance stat focus on your 7-star if you wanted to. So if someone has energy resistance on their Mysterio, when he's in his rage mode and you use a special 2, you can just ignore that stat focus pretty much. On the special 3, you will instantly gain 20 Neutronium. And if you throw the special 3 when he's in his rage mode, you will inflict a stun debuff for 4 seconds. From what it looks like after reading through all of this, his absolute best counter is Kindred, because Kindred has an atrophy. If you look, while Maestro is suffering from atrophy, reduce the potency of energy damage by 50%. So, while the atrophy is on Maestro, you aren't going to be taking as much damage from that radiation. And if we continue going down, while Maestro is suffering from atrophy, his Neutroniums will expire 50% faster. That's really good for getting him out of that mode. When he's in his rage mode, and he will inflict that root passive, that won't trigger if he has an atrophy on him, which is really good. So, using Kindred, and you have your atrophy on him, you're not going to get rooted from the specials. That's really good. Yeah, so Kindred is the only Mystic in the game with the atrophy effect. So Kindred is... He's not the only counter, but Kindred is the best counter to Maestro. So if you're ever facing Maestro on defense and you have a Kindred available, definitely use him if you can. So he's worth learning if you have him, because then you could use him to have a more easier time fighting Maestro. He's still probably going to be really annoying because he's just Maestro. He's a monster on defense. But there were a couple of other ones that can work decently well too. We have Kushala. She has that Soul Barb, which is good because he gains a good amount of buffs. So that Soul Barb is going to do some good damage against him. Same thing with Mordo. He also has that Soul Barb. He can work too. Also, I can see Juggernaut working really well too for this fight, because Maestro doesn't really put any of those non-damaging debuffs on you. So it's not going to get rid of his gem. Just quickly throwing this out there. Yeah, if you guys didn't know that, non-damaging debuffs will take off Juggernaut's his gem, therefore making him a lot weaker. So be sure to not take Juggernaut against champs like Null or even Super Skrull. He can put that energy vulnerability on you. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you're using Juggernaut. It's not going to get rid of his really good his damage, his power gain. He's going to work well. I can see Mojo working well too, as long as he doesn't get to his rage mode, because he can make those buffs expire faster, which is really nice. Mystic Spidey, he builds so much power off of an enemy's buffs, so that's really good. Ghost Rider will work because he's got the Damnation. CGR will probably work too. but nullifies can work. He's not immune to nullify. He'll just be trickier to play against. But the absolute best counter to Maestro is Kindred, in my opinion, because he has the atrophy, and in Maestro's kit, atrophy directly affects him and affects his abilities, which is awesome. So Kindred is great. There are other good ones like I showed. He will work. Rintra could work well too. Same with Tigra. That's actually a lie. You'll see when I test Rintra against Maestro, his neutralize in fact does not work. So that would make Tigra not very good, and Wiccan also, because they neutralize. So yeah, don't do that. Now, I unfortunately do not have, I don't have any version of Kindred, I don't think. Or do I? No, I don't have any version of Kindred. So I'm just we're gonna try Juggernaut to see if this works well. Oof. There's that glancing buff. Yeah, what you want to do is you want to get him to a special 2 if you can, because that one's just so much easier to work around. There he paused his buff. No, he didn't. I lied. He gained his Pierce right there. And see, the special 2 is easy to work around. Uh-oh, that's bad. Oh. Alright, so we're going to test Juggernaut here against Maestro. So at the 10 Neutroniums, which is that counter up there, he will gain his glancing buff. Yep, there's the glancing, and I just nullified it. Oh. Even with the glancing up, that was still some pretty decent damage. You definitely avoid the special 1 because it's harder to dex. The special 2 is super easy to avoid. It would be nice if you threw a special though. Thank you. Boom. So Juggernaut, he seems to work decently. I will definitely try and rank him up as soon as I can. I've got other priorities right now. I'm not going to take him up yet. But that was Juggernaut. He seemed okay. Let's try Rintra. So with that neutralize active... Oh, look at that. So he still gained his buff through the neutralize. And since I'm glancing, I can't put another neutralize on him, since every attack is glancing. Yeah, so a neutralized champ will not work. I wish I had Kindred to be able to show his utility against him, but I don't own a Kindred in any rarity, which is a shame. So I can't show his atrophy at all against Maestro. So sorry about that. But reiterating my top counters. Number 1 is Kindred. Number 2 is probably going to be a Juggernaut. I think he works well. Number 3 is going to be Kushala or Mordo, because they have the Soul Barb, keep that in mind when you're fighting him. If you have a 6-star Kindred, or even 7-star, definitely take him up, because you're going to be seeing a lot of Maestros on defense. I can promise you that. There's going to be a bunch. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it helpful. And yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.